WLCR 91.1, Lake Country Radio. Everything is emergency. Urgency over accuracy. Free, dumb, freedom. So, tune your dials all the way left because, as you already know, 911 is greater than 411. 911-411. Do the math. We are 500 more. This is Larry Fells. In today's news, we have local cokehead tries to gun 2008 Dodge Viper under crop sprayer, dies. Dousman, renowned bloviator and insufferable prick Don Shurley, laid himself to rest last night around 4:30 a.m. after closing down Whiskey Waters in Okauchee and, from what can be assembled from the debris of his car and life, attempting to split the uprights between a set of 64 heavy-duty flotation tires on a piece of industrial farm machinery headed southbound on Summit Avenue, near his split level in Scuppernong Heights. Local cornpone Virgil Severson, owner of the Miller NutriBoss nitrogen applicator, who remained on the scene of the flameout, told the assembled members of Western Lakes Fire District Station No. 2 that the recently deceased dipshit likely could have made it clean through because the Miller has around 6 feet of clearance, but I'm betting he got the yips when he went for it. According to anyone who's been within earshot of a bar past midnight the past 15 years, Mr. Hotshit purchased his Blue Beauty in 2008 after falling ass backwards into $50,000 from a lucky 50 trademark scratch-off ticket, then parlaying the windfall into a weekend at Ho Chunk Casino and totally derailing his life. With the global financial collapse on the horizon, it turns out that summer '08 was not the ideal time to go all in on a sports car and a sniff habit. After he stopped laughing, local jagoff Randy Stamper said, "Donnie Dignose is dead? Surely you must be joking, bah ha ha ha, nah." But seriously, everyone has heard him talk about how the so-called aerodynamics on that low-grade American exotic supposedly makes it hug the road and get lower to the ground or some bullshit. Give me a break. What? Are you Chuck Yeager? Please, you have to tell me he had the top down. Really? Bah-ha-ha-ga-ha-ha. Newly hired EMT Sarah Jean Cockburn, a former fourth-grade teacher at Park Lawn Elementary, was unable to confirm whether the convertible roof was down at the time of impact due to her retching. Her supervisor, Damian Eldridge, speculated that based on the quarter mile of super doofus we've been scraping up here, I'd say top down is likely, since none of these bags really contain what I recognize as head. When asked for clarification, Eldridge continued, "He locked him up for over 75 yards before the Viper went airborne into those oak trees, so just judging by the skid marks, I'd ballpark it at 160 miles per hour, maybe 170 if he took the limiter off. Not bad for an 08 Dodge, really. But if Captain Fantastic was riding high on the hog, his melon might have clipped that triangular reflector on the undercarriage of the sprayer and vaporized faster than the ammonium nitrate Virgil was headed out to his backfield with. Oh, wait, have you seen the video? Yeah. Big Time was apparently live streaming on Instagram. You gotta check it out before they take it down. It's at balls deep, fucking hilarious." Yeah, so Blowhard Mac feels strong leaves behind a black leather sectional couch, a bunch of unused wakeboards, and a 98 Hisense micro-LED flat-screen TV. Condolences and offers can be sent to his stepsister Judy's Facebook Marketplace account. Copyright LC 911 Publications. Merit codes. Peggy Davenport of the Department of Transportation encourages applicants to remain flexible and consider less conventional vowel usage. As a result of the shortage, numerous residents have found themselves the target of harassment, including pointing, laughing, and merciless honking. Retired systems analyst Richard Liebling, who is
Share the episode with someone who appreciates the 2008 doc. The death of Don Shurley in Doosman, Wisconsin, presents a collision between high-performance automotive engineering and industrial agricultural machinery that reads more like a dark satire than a standard obituary. According to reports from Larry Fells, Shurley met his end at 4:30 in the morning after attempting to drive his 2008 Dodge Viper beneath a Miller NutriBoss nitrogen applicator, a piece of farm equipment with substantial ground clearance that Shurley apparently believed his car could clear. This wasn't just a high-speed accident. It was the final act of a man whose life had been inextricably linked to a singular blue sports car and a series of increasingly risky decisions.
It's a bizarre scene to visualize on Summit Avenue. You have this 2008 Dodge Viper SRT10, which was a monster of its era, trying to split the uprights under a set of 64-inch heavy-duty flotation tires. The Miller Nitro Series sprayers, which often carry these NutriBoss applicators, are famous in the farming world for having over 6 feet of ground clearance. Virgil Severson, the owner of the machinery, even noted that the car likely could have made it through if Shurley hadn't lost his nerve, or, as he put it, got the yips at the last second.
The physics of that attempt are fascinating if you look at the specs of the 2008 Viper. It stands just under 48 inches tall. If the Miller sprayer has 72 inches of clearance, there's theoretically 2 feet of daylight above the car. But at the speeds Shurley was traveling, estimated by EMTs to be upwards of 160 miles per hour, the margin for error vanishes. When you're moving that fast, the slightest steering input or even the aerodynamics of the car hugging the road changes the geometry of the gap.
That road-hugging claim is something Shurley was known for boasting about at local bars like Whiskey Waters. He called the car his Blue Beauty. The 2008 model was actually a significant jump in performance for the Viper. It featured an 8.4-liter V10 engine pumping out 600 horsepower. Dodge engineers had actually revised the aerodynamics that year to increase downforce. Ironically, the very stability he bragged about might have worked against him if he hit a bump or tried to adjust his line under the sprayer. At those speeds, the car isn't just a vehicle, it's a projectile.
The backstory of how he acquired the car adds another layer to this. He reportedly won $50,000 on a scratch-off ticket and immediately parlayed that into more winnings at Ho Chunk Casino. This happened in the summer of 2008, right as the global financial collapse was beginning. While the rest of the world was bracing for a recession, Shurley was doubling down on a supercar and, according to local accounts, a significant drug habit. It's a classic example of a windfall leading to a total derailment of life, rather than a foundation for it.
It's almost poetic in a tragic sense. The 2008 Viper was known as America's exotic, but it was notorious for lacking electronic stability control or traction control. It was a raw, unforgiving machine. To drive it at the limit required immense skill, yet Shurley seems to have treated it as a toy for late-night stunts. The EMT on the scene, Damian Eldridge, mentioned that the skid marks alone were 75 yards long before the car went airborne into a stand of oak trees. That indicates a massive loss of control before the impact.
The detail about him live streaming the event on Instagram is a very modern and very grim touch. Under the handle @BaldsDeep, he was documenting the high-speed run as it happened. It highlights a certain desperation for relevance, or an audience that often accompanies these high-risk behaviors. The technical reality is that if the car was riding high, or if Shurley sat up at the wrong moment, he would have hit the triangular, slow-moving vehicle reflector on the undercarriage of the sprayer. That reflector is usually made of steel or heavy plastic, and is positioned right at the level where a driver's head would be in a low-slung convertible.
And the sprayer wasn't just a passive obstacle. It was headed to a field to apply ammonium nitrate. These machines are massive. A Miller Nitro can weigh over 20,000 pounds empty, and much more when loaded with liquid fertilizer. To the driver of a Viper, it probably looked like a bridge moving in the opposite direction. But unlike a bridge, the undercarriage of a sprayer is filled with hydraulic lines, stainless steel tubing, and the NutriBoss drops themselves, which are designed to place nutrients directly at the root zone of corn.
It sounds like he essentially drove into a jungle of metal pipes and high-pressure lines. The witnesses, like Randy Stamper, weren't exactly sympathetic in their descriptions of him, calling him a bloviator and an insufferable prick. It suggests that Shurley had alienated his community long before this final stunt. The local reaction reflects a certain weariness with his Mr. Hot Shit persona. Even the EMT, Sarah Jean Cockburn, who was a former fourth-grade teacher, was visibly shaken by the state of the wreckage, which says a lot about the violence of the impact.
The wreckage was described as superdoofus, being scraped up for a quarter of a mile. That level of fragmentation only happens in extreme high-velocity collisions. When you hit oak trees at 160 miles per hour after clipping a heavy piece of industrial equipment, the car doesn't just crash, it disintegrates. The Dodge Viper has a tubular space frame and fiberglass or composite body panels. They are built for speed, not for surviving a head-on impact with a tree after being decapitated by a nitrogen applicator.
There's a cultural disconnect here between the rural setting of Dooceman and the supercar culture Shurley was trying to project. You have this split-level home in Scuppernong Heights and a guy trying to act like Chuck Yeager on a country road. The artifacts he left behind, a black leather sectional, unused wakeboards, and a massive LED TV, point to a lifestyle of consumption fueled by that 2008 windfall, but one that lacked any real roots or stability. His stepsister is even selling his remains on Facebook Marketplace.
That Facebook Marketplace detail is the ultimate indignity, isn't it? It frames his entire existence as a collection of offers and condolences mixed with second-hand furniture. But focusing on the technical side, the 2008 Viper was a car that demanded respect. It had a heavy clutch, a notched 6-speed manual, and that massive V10 engine that generated incredible heat. Many owners complained that the side sills, where the exhaust pipes ran, would actually burn your legs if you weren't careful getting out. It was a hot, loud, difficult car.
And Shurley was reportedly driving it top down. The aerodynamics of a convertible change significantly when the top is off. At high speeds, you get a lot of cockpit turbulence. If he was trying to duck under a sprayer, the wind buffeting alone would make it incredibly difficult to maintain a precise line. If the car lifted even slightly due to a pocket of air under the sprayer, he would have slammed into the chassis of the Miller machine instead of passing under it.
The NutriBoss system itself is designed to be lightweight, only about 9 pounds per drop, but those drops are attached to a massive boom. If the Viper's windshield frame or the driver's head hit one of those stainless steel drops at triple-digit speeds, it would be like hitting a spear. Virgil Severson mentioned the nitrogen applicator was headed southbound, meaning it was a head-on approach. The closing speed would have been the speed of the Viper plus the transport speed of the sprayer, which usually tops out around 35 miles per hour on the road. So we're looking at a combined impact speed of nearly 200 miles per hour.
It's hard to imagine anyone surviving that, yips or not. The local commentary, while harsh, highlights a resentment toward the danger he put others in. Virgil Severson was just doing his job, moving equipment to a backfield. If the Viper had hit one of the tires instead of the gap, it could have flipped the entire sprayer, potentially spilling ammonium nitrate and causing a much larger disaster. It's a miracle no one else was killed in his flameout.
The toxicology report hasn't been mentioned, but the references to a sniff habit and closing down a bar at 4:30 paint a clear picture. Alcohol and stimulants are a catastrophic mix for someone behind the wheel of a car with 600 horsepower and no electronic safety nets. The Viper was famously nicknamed the Widowmaker in its early years, and even the 2008 ZB2 generation maintained that reputation for being a handful. It required a level of sobriety and focus that Shurley clearly didn't possess that night.
Ultimately, the story of Don Shurley is a cautionary tale about the intersection of ego, sudden wealth, and high-performance machinery. He tried to turn a Wisconsin county road into a stunt track and found out that the clearance under a nitrogen applicator isn't a challenge to be conquered, it's a structural reality of industrial farming. His Blue Beauty ended up as a quarter-mile of debris, and his legacy is a sarcastic obituary and a TV for sale on Marketplace.
It's a stark reminder that road-hugging aerodynamics can't save you from a lack of common sense. The Miller Nutriboss and the Dodge Viper are both marvels of engineering in their own right, but they were never meant to interact in that way. The tragedy isn't just the loss of life, but the sheer preventable stupidity of